Silas Brandt found the girl half frozen at his property line on the coldest December morning in 30 years, small as a shadow against the snow. And the first thing she said wasn't help, it was sorry. The thermometer read 12 below when Silas climbed into his truck at 5:30, breath clouding the cab before the heater kicked in. Fence check, same as every morning for 40 years. The land didn't care if you were tired. 3 miles out, his headlights caught something wrong. A shape. Too small for a calf, wrong color for a coyote. He stopped the truck. The girl was maybe 9, curled against the fence post like she was trying to disappear into it. Snow had already started covering her coat, torn at the shoulder, too thin for December. No gloves. Sneakers with holes. Her lips were blue. Silas's hands went numb. For 3 seconds, he saw Emily's face, Emily's size, Emily's... The girl's eyes opened. Sorry, she whispered. Not help me, not please, just sorry. Silas didn't remember crossing the frozen ground. Didn't remember scooping her up. Christ, she weighed nothing. By the time he kicked the truck door open, his jaw was locked so tight his teeth hurt. He laid her across the bench seat, cranked the heat to maximum, and drove. The ranch house sat dark on the horizon. In the kitchen window, the brass lamp hadn't been lit in 7 years. She woke in a stranger's house with a fire burning and a millionaire rancher staring at her like she might disappear if he blinked. And the first thought through her head was how many hours until he'd make her leave. The room was too warm. That's what woke her. Cora opened her eyes to wallpaper with tiny flowers and a quilt that smelled like cedar, clean sheets, a window showing gray dawn and endless snow, not a shelter, not a car, not a gas station bathroom, a house. She sat up fast, heart hammering. Her coat was gone. Someone had put her in an oversized flannel shirt. Her feet were wrapped in bandages. The door opened. The man filled the doorframe. Tall, 60s maybe, weathered face, gray at the temples. He held a bowl of something steaming and stopped when he saw she was awake. They stared at each other. You're awake, he said finally. Good. Cora's throat was sandpaper. I can leave if you want. His jaw tightened. Storm's coming. You ain't leaving. I didn't mean to. Eat this. He set the bowl on the nightstand. Soup, smelled like beef, and stepped back like she might bolt. Doctor's coming. I don't need... Wasn't asking. He left. The door stayed open. Cora counted to 60 before touching the soup. Still hot. Real chunks of meat. She ate 3 spoonfuls, then stopped. Waited to see if he'd come back and take it away. He didn't. She finished the bowl. An hour later, an old man with kind eyes and a black bag arrived. Silas let him in without a word, then stood in the hallway with his arms crossed while the doctor examined her. I'm Doc Brennan, the old man said, pulling up a chair. Can you tell me your name? Cora kept her eyes on the quilt. Cora. That's a real pretty name. Cora what? Silence. How old are you, Cora? 9. Where are your folks? She picked at a thread. Don't have any. Doc Brennan cleaned her feet. The frostbite was mild, he said, she'd been lucky, and checked her temperature, her ears, her throat. He was gentle. She hated that. Gentle meant they were getting ready to send you somewhere worse. You're dehydrated and underweight, he said, packing his bag. But you'll be fine. You need rest and food. Think you can handle that? Cora nodded. Good girl. He stood, glanced at the door where Silas lurked. Can I talk to Mr. Brandt for a minute? She nodded again. They went to the kitchen. Cora could hear their voices, low and serious. Where'd she come from? Doc Brennan asked, keeping his voice down. Silas poured 2 cups of coffee. Found her at the fence line, 5:30 this morning. You call the sheriff? Not yet. Doc studied him. Silas. Storm's supposed to last 3 days. Silas handed him a mug. Phones might go down. Phones work fine right now. She was frozen, Tom. Another hour and... Silas stopped, jaw working. Doc Brennan had delivered Emily. Had stood in this kitchen 20 years ago and told Silas his wife had cancer. Had been the one to sign the death certificate when Emily didn't make it through the pneumonia. He knew what that look meant. You can't just keep her, Doc said quietly. I know that. Yeah, there's procedures, social services, background checks. I know. She's not... I know she's not Emily. Silas's voice went flat. I know that, Tom. Silence. Wind rattled the windows. Doc Brennan sighed. Storm really is supposed to last 72 hours. Roads will be bad. And I suppose, medically speaking, she shouldn't be moved in her condition. Silas looked at him. 3 days, Doc said. Then you call. Understood? Understood. I'll stop by tomorrow. Check on her. Doc pulled on his coat. Silas? Yeah? You sure about this? Silas glanced toward the bedroom where the girl was. For the first time in 6 years, the house didn't feel like a tomb. No, he said. But I'm doing it anyway. After the doctor left, Silas stood in the kitchen for a long time. Snow fell heavier now, wind picking up. He should check the cattle. Should make sure the barn was secure. Should do about 50 things. Instead, he walked back to Emily's room. No, the guest room. Had to stop thinking of it that way. And found Cora sitting on the edge of the bed, bowl empty beside her. "You need anything?" he asked from the doorway. She shook her head. "There's more food if you're hungry." I'm okay." He nodded, started to leave. "Mister?" He turned back. "How long can I stay?" The question hit him in the chest. She asked it like she already knew the answer would hurt. "Storm's gonna last a while," he said carefully. "So at least till it clears." She nodded, eyes down. "Okay. You got a place you need to get back to?" She picked at the quilt. "No." "Family looking for you?" "No." Silas studied her, too thin, too careful, too used to being unwanted. He thought about Emily, about Margaret lighting the lamp so he could find his way home, about 7 years of silence in this house. "What's your name?" The girl's voice was barely a whisper. "Silas." He paused. "Yours?" "Cora." "Cora." He tested it. "All right then, Cora. Storm's breaking tonight. Best get some rest." Where will you be?" Something in the way she asked, scared he'd leave, scared he'd stay, made him stop. "Downstairs," he said. "I'll be downstairs." Her shoulders relaxed, just a fraction. He closed the door softly and stood in the hallway for a full minute before moving. In the kitchen, the brass lamp sat dark in the window. He looked at it for a long time. Then he checked every lock twice, poured himself coffee he wouldn't drink, and sat at a table built for a family in a house that had been silent for too many years. Outside, the wind howled. Inside, for the first time since Emily died, someone was breathing in the upstairs bedroom. Silas put his head in his hands. "Christ," he whispered. "What am I doing?" But he already knew. He was doing what he should have done 6 years ago, opening the door, even if it meant risking everything he'd built to keep the pain out. By day 3 of the storm, Cora had learned Silas Brandt took his coffee black, checked every lock twice before bed, and never, ever touched the brass lamp in the kitchen window. And she'd started wondering what kind of ghost lived in a house this quiet. The storm didn't break. Day 1. Cora stayed upstairs mostly, coming down only when Silas called her for meals. He made simple food, eggs, toast, canned soup, and ate in silence. She watched him like he might change his mind about letting her stay. Day 2, she ventured further, sat on the couch while he read the newspaper, asked if she could look at the books on the shelf. He said yes without looking up. She chose one about horses and read 3 pages before falling asleep right there. When she woke, there was a blanket over her. Day 3, she woke to the smell of coffee. Silas was already in the kitchen when she came down, wearing the same flannel shirt she'd slept in. It hit her knees. Her feet were still bandaged. "Morning," he said, not turning from the stove. "Morning." He poured coffee into 2 mugs, held one out to her. She stared at it. "You drink coffee?" he asked. "I don't know." He added milk and sugar without asking, set it on the table. "Try it." She did. Too sweet, but warm. She didn't complain. "You know how to make eggs?" he asked. She shook her head. "Come here." Cora approached slowly. Silas cracked 2 eggs into a bowl, handed her a fork. "Beat these." She did, concentrating hard. "Good. Now pour them in the pan." He stepped aside, let her do it. "Keep stirring. Don't let it stick." She stirred. The eggs started to solidify, yellow and soft. It smelled good. "When it looks like that, it's done," he said. "Put it on the plate." She did. Her hands shook a little. "Now, toast." He dropped 2 slices of bread in the toaster, pushed the lever down. "Watch it. Don't let it burn." Cora watched so hard she didn't breathe. The toast popped up. Black. She grabbed it too fast, burned her fingers, dropped it. The toast hit the floor. "I'm sorry." Her voice cracked. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean. I'll clean it up. I'm sorry." She was backing toward the wall, hands up like she expected to be hit. Silas froze. "Cora, I'll do better, I promise. I'm sorry." "Cora," as his voice was firm but not loud. "It's just bread." She stopped, eyes wide. "It's just bread," he said again, slower. "Make more." You're not mad?" He looked at her, really looked, and saw it, the way she flinched, the way she apologized for existing. Something in his chest cracked open. "No," he said quietly. "I'm not mad." Her face crumpled. She started crying, silent at first, then shaking. Silas didn't know what to do, didn't know how to comfort a crying child anymore. Didn't know if he should touch her or talk or just he left. Walked out of the kitchen, down the hall, stood in the cold mudroom with his hands on his knees. Behind him, he could hear her trying to stop crying, little hiccup sounds. She was probably terrified he'd throw her out now. He wasn't. He was terrified because he'd forgotten how much it hurt to care. 20 minutes later, Cora crept into the living room. Her eyes were red. Silas was sitting in his chair, staring at nothing. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Don't be. I made a mess. I cleaned it up." She shifted her weight, uncertain. Are you sending me away?" "No. Because I can—" "You're not going anywhere." He looked at her. "Storm's not over, and when it is, we'll figure it out. But you're not going anywhere today." She nodded, not quite believing him. "There's cereal if you're hungry," he said. "And don't worry about the toast." She went back to the kitchen, found the counter wiped clean, the burned toast gone, and next to the toaster, a fresh loaf of bread. On top of it, a note in rough handwriting. Practice. Cora picked up the note, read it 3 times. Then she made toast. This time it was perfect. That afternoon, the snow turned to ice against the windows. Cora had eaten her perfect toast, then retreated to the living room with her horsebook. "You can look around if you want," Silas said from the kitchen doorway. "Just don't go in the barn without me." She looked up. "Really? House ain't that interesting, but yeah." She waited until he went back to whatever he was doing, fixing something in the mudroom. Sounded like, then she explored. The living room had a fireplace, a worn leather couch, bookshelves full of ranch management manuals and old westerns. A television that looked 20 years old. Everything was clean but unused, like a museum. The dining room had a long table with 6 chairs, dust on 5 of them, and then the piano. It sat against the far wall, covered with a sheet. Cora lifted the corner, black wood, ivory keys yellowed with age. She pressed one key. The sound was awful, out of tune, hollow. "You play?" She jumped. Silas was leaning in the doorway, coffee mug in hand. "No, sorry, I shouldn't have. It's fine." He came closer, looked at the piano like it was something he'd forgotten existed. "Haven't touched it in years." "Did you play?" "My wife did. Taught art." He stopped. "Taught piano lessons sometimes. Locals." Cora pressed the key again. Same terrible sound. Silas almost smiled. "Sounds like a dying cat." "Worse," Cora said. "Worse?" "Sounds like 2 dying cats." He laughed. Actually laughed, short and surprised, like he'd forgotten how. Cora grinned. Then he caught himself, cleared his throat. "Anyway, needs tuning." He walked away, back to whatever work he was avoiding. But Cora had heard it, a real laugh. Upstairs, she found more. The bathroom had 2 toothbrushes in the holder, one regular, one small. The small one was dry, unused for years. The hallway closet held women's coats, kids' boots. Nobody had cleaned them out. And in the master bedroom, she only peeked, didn't go in. She saw a dresser with the drawers half open. On top, a photo frame, face down. She shouldn't. She did. The photo showed a younger Silas, maybe 40, standing with a beautiful woman. Dark hair, kind smile, and a little girl, maybe 7. The girl had pigtails and was missing a front tooth. They were standing in front of this house. Everyone was smiling. Cora put it back exactly how she found it. Walked back downstairs on quiet feet. She understood now the ghost wasn't in the house. The ghost was the house. Evening came, with clear skies for the first time in 3 days. The storm had finally broken. Silas made dinner, venison stew, he said, from last season's hunt, and they ate at the long table. Just the 2 of them, at one end. The other 5 chairs stayed empty. After he stood, "Time to check the locks." "Why?" "Because you check 'em." "But why twice?" He paused, measuring how much to say. "Can't be too careful." "Of what?" He didn't answer. Just walked to the front door, checked the deadbolt, checked it again. Cora followed, watching. Back door, twice. Every window on the first floor, twice. She mimicked his movements when he wasn't looking. Reach up, test the lock, count to 3, test it again. At the last window, he glanced back and saw her copying him. Something in his face softened. "Why do you do it twice?" she asked again. "Just do." They stood there in the dark hallway, neither moving. "Okay," she said finally. They went back to the living room. She curled up on the couch with her book. He sat in his chair with the newspaper but didn't read it. Half an hour later, she was asleep. Silas set down the paper, watched her for a minute, small and still, breathing steady. The bandages were coming off her feet tomorrow. Doc said she'd be fine to walk, which meant she could leave, which meant decisions were coming. He stood, got the blanket from the back of the couch, draped it over her carefully. She didn't wake. He stood there too long. "Can't do this again," he whispered. But he was already doing it. He went to the kitchen, stood at the window. The brass lamp sat there in the dark, untouched since Margaret died. Since Emily, he reached for it, hand hovering over the base, then pulled back. Not yet, maybe not ever. Outside, stars crowded the Montana sky, bright and cold. The storm was over. Roads would be passable by morning. The 3 days Doc had given him were almost up. He'd have to call the sheriff. He'd have to let the system decide. He'd have to risk losing another person No, not that. He didn't love her. Couldn't. He'd known her 3 days, but in the living room someone was sleeping safe in his house. Someone who apologized for burning toast. Someone who'd been thrown away by the world and was probably used to it. Someone small and scared who'd said sorry before asking for help. Silas looked at the dark lamp one more time. Then he turned off the kitchen light and went to sit in his chair, watching over a sleeping child in a house that hadn't held laughter in 7 years. The door to that room in his chest, the one he'd locked and buried after Emily, opened another inch. The roads opened on day 6, and when Sheriff Merrick's truck rolled up the drive, asking questions Silas Brandt didn't want to answer, Cora learned what a man with everything sounds like when he's about to lose the one thing that matters. Morning came bright and cold, the kind of cold that meant the storm was really over. Cora woke in Emily's bed. She still thought of it that way, even though Silas had told her it was hers now, and looked out the window. The world was white and still, beautiful if you didn't know how dangerous it was. She could hear Silas downstairs, coffee pot, cabinet doors, the small sounds of someone who lived alone. She dressed in clothes he'd found for her, too big, but clean, and went down. "Morning," he said, same as always. Poured her coffee with milk and sugar without asking. "Morning." She sat at the table. "Storm's over." Yeah. They didn't say what that meant. That the 3 days were up. That roads would be clear. That people could get here now. "You hungry?" he asked. "Yeah. Make us some eggs." She did. Didn't burn anything. He nodded approval when she set the plate in front of him. They ate in silence. After, while he was checking the cattle, Cora cleaned the kitchen, washed the dishes, dried them, put them away where she'd seen him put them. She wanted to do something more, something that would make him want her to stay. That's when she noticed the lamp, the brass one in the window, the one he never touched, the one his wife used to light. Cora thought, maybe if the house looks lived in again, he won't send me away. She found matches in the drawer. Silas was in the barn, checking a fence panel, when he looked up toward the house, and saw light in the kitchen window, yellow, warm, exactly like... His heart stopped. Margaret always lit the lamp when he worked late, so he could see the house from the far pasture. So, he'd know where home was. He hadn't seen that light in 7 years. He ran. Boots slipping on ice, breath tearing, ran like something was burning, slammed through the mudroom door, into the kitchen. Cora stood at the window, match in hand, reaching for the lamp wick. The flame was already catching. "Don't touch that." She spun, match dropping. Her eyes went wide. "I said, don't touch that." His voice was too loud, too rough, but he couldn't stop it. He crossed the kitchen in 3 strides, blew out the lamp before the wick could catch fully. Smoke curled up, the smell of sulfur. Cora was backing away, hands up. "I'm sorry. What did I tell you?" His hands were shaking. "What did I just wanted to make it nice. You don't touch this." He grabbed the lamp base. Not hard, but firm, moved it away from her reach. "You don't touch things that ain't yours?" Her face crumpled. "I'm sorry. I thought, don't think. Don't touch." He set the lamp down heavily. "Just don't." She was crying now, silent tears. And Silas saw it, saw her shrinking, saw the way she'd pulled into herself, saw the little girl who'd said sorry before asking for help because someone had taught her she was only worth apologies. He'd just done the same thing. "Cora, I'll go." Her voice was small. "I'll get my stuff and go. I'm sorry. No, I didn't mean." But she was already running, up the stairs. He heard the bedroom door close. Silas stood alone in the kitchen. The lamp sat dark again, exactly where Margaret had left it. And he'd just screamed at a 9-year-old for trying to light it. "Christ," he muttered. He looked at his hands, still shaking. 7 years. 7 years of this lamp sitting cold because he couldn't bear to see it lit. Couldn't bear to remember Margaret standing here, smiling, asking how his day was. Couldn't bear to remember Emily running down to meet him when she saw the light. The lamp was a gravestone he kept in the window, and Cora had just tried to bring it back to life. He should go up there, should explain, should... The sound of tires on gravel. Silas looked out the window. Sheriff's truck coming up the drive. "Hell," he said. Roy Merrick climbed out of his county vehicle, adjusting his hat. Silas met him on the porch, pulling the door closed behind him. "Roy." "Silas." The sheriff was younger than Silas by 15 years, but carried himself like he'd been wearing the badge his whole life. Roads finally cleared. "I see that. But Doc mentioned you had a situation here." "That what he called it?" "He said you found a kid." Roy's eyes went to the house. "That right?" "Yeah." "Mind if I ask some questions?" Silas's jaw tightened. "Guess not. Where is she? Inside. How old? 9, she says. Name? Cora. Last name? Don't know. Roy pulled out a notebook. Where'd you find her? Fence line, 3 miles east. Morning the storm hit. She say where she came from? No. She say who her people are? Says she don't have any. Roy wrote that down, and you just brought her here. What was I supposed to do? Leave her in the snow? You were supposed to call me, Silas. Storm was coming. Phones worked fine. Roy looked up from his notebook. Still do. Silence. I had Doc check her, Silas said. She was hypothermic, malnourished, needed care. Now that's real charitable of you. Roy's voice wasn't unkind, but it wasn't warm either. But there's procedures. Social services needs to be notified. We need to figure out who she is, where she came from, if anyone's looking for her. Nobody's looking. You don't know that. I know what a kid looks like when she's been thrown away. Roy sighed. That's not how this works. You can't just keep a kid because you feel bad for her. Wasn't planning to throw her back in the snow. That's not what Roy rubbed his forehead. Look, I know you. I know things have been hard since Emily, but don't, Silas said quietly. Don't bring her into this. I'm just saying she stays till we figure it out. This ain't up to you, Silas. Silas straightened. On my land, it is. They stared at each other. I'll need to talk to her, Roy said finally. See if she can tell me anything useful. She's scared. I'll be gentle. Roy, it's not a request. Silas brought Roy inside. Cora was sitting on the stairs, eyes red. When she saw the uniform, she went pale. This is Sheriff Merrick, Silas said. He just wants to ask you some questions. She looked at Silas like he'd betrayed her. Roy crouched down to her level, kept his distance. Hey there, Cora. I'm not here to make trouble. Just trying to figure out how to help you. That okay? She nodded, barely. Can you tell me where you're from? Different places. What kind of places? Foster homes, sometimes other places. You got family anywhere? She shook her head. Anyone who might be worried about you? Another head shake. Roy glanced at Silas, then back to her. How'd you end up out here? Walked? From where? Don't remember. Roy tried a few more questions. Got nothing useful. The girl had learned to say nothing, be nothing, disappear into the cracks. Finally, he stood. All right, thank you, Cora. She didn't respond. Roy nodded to Silas. Outside? On the porch, Roy closed his notebook. She's been in the system before. Yeah, which means she's got a file somewhere. Caseworker, probably. He looked back at the house. I'll make some calls. Social services will need to do a home visit. There's paperwork for temporary placement, background checks. I understand. Roy studied him. Do you? Because this isn't like keeping a stray dog, Silas. There's laws, procedures, And if she's got family somewhere? She don't. You don't know that. I know what I saw when I found her. She was dying out there, Roy. Whoever had her before didn't give a damn. Maybe, but the court decides that, not you. Roy put his hat back on. I'll do what I can. Doc vouching for you helps. But you need to understand, this is going to get complicated. Silas nodded. I'll be in touch. Roy headed for his truck, then stopped. Silas? Why? Why what? Why keep her? You could have called me that first morning. Could have let social services handle it. Why didn't you? Silas looked at the mountains, the endless snow. Because I'm tired of this house being empty. Roy held his gaze for a moment, then nodded. 3 to 5 days. That's how long before someone shows up. Use the time. He drove away. Silas found Cora still on the stairs. He gone? She asked quietly. Yeah. Am I leaving? Not today. But soon. He sat down on the step below her. Maybe. I don't know yet. Because I touched the lamp. No. Because there's rules about kids without families. They have to make sure you're safe. I am safe. Her voice was fierce. I'm safer here than anywhere I've ever been. That hit him square in the chest. I know, he said. They sat in silence. I'm sorry, she whispered. About the lamp. I didn't know. I know you didn't. I just wanted to help. Wanted to make the house feel, I don't know, alive. Silas rubbed his face. It's not your fault. Then why'd you yell? Because, he stopped. Tried again. My wife used to light that lamp. Every night I worked late. So I could find my way home from the far pastures, see the light, and know where I was going. Cora was quiet. Then, where is she? Gone. Oh. The word hung there. She understood what gone meant. And your daughter? She asked carefully. He looked at her, wondered how she knew, then realized she'd probably seen the photos. The too small toothbrush. The room she was sleeping in. Gone too. I'm sorry. Yeah, me too. More silence. Wind against the windows. That's why you don't light it, Cora said. Because it hurts too much. Yeah. I won't touch it again, I promise. He nodded. I know. She picked at the stair railing. Do you wish I wasn't here? Because I remind you? No. He said it fast. Meant it. You're not her. I know that, and He paused, choosing words carefully. I'm glad you're here. She looked up. Really? Really. Her eyes got wet again, but she was smiling. Even though I burned the toast and touched the lamp and... Even though... Okay. She wiped her eyes. Okay. That evening, he made her favorite, beef stew. He'd noticed she liked it best, and they ate at the table, just the two of them, at one end. Can I ask you something? She said, pushing carrots around her bowl. Yeah. When they come, the social services people, what will they ask? About me, probably. About you. About whether this is a good place for you. What should I say? The truth. What if the truth isn't what they want to hear? He looked at her. What's the truth? She met his eyes. That I don't want to leave. Something in his chest broke open wider. Then say that, he said quietly. They finished eating in silence, washed dishes together, checked the locks, twice, same as always. She mimicked his movements without being asked now. It had become their ritual. In the living room, she curled up with her book. He sat in his chair. Silas? Yeah? If I have to go, will you visit me? The question killed him. You're not going anywhere, he said. Not if I can help it. But if you can't, then yeah, I'd visit. She nodded, satisfied, went back to her book. But she fell asleep within minutes, exhausted from crying, from fear. Silas covered her with the blanket, stood there watching her breathe. 3 to 5 days, Roy had said. 3 to 5 days to figure out how to keep her. How to convince strangers he wasn't some lonely old man trying to replace his dead daughter. How to prove that a millionaire rancher and a throwaway kid could be a family. He went to the kitchen, stood at the window. The lamp sat dark and cold. He reached for it, let his hand rest on the brass base. Margaret had lit this for him for 20 years. Every late night, there was light in the window. Then she died, then Emily, and the light went out. Maybe it was supposed to stay out. Maybe that's what he deserved. But upstairs, a girl was sleeping in Emily's bed. A girl who said sorry before asking for help. A girl who wanted to stay. And for the first time in 7 years, Silas wanted someone to stay too. He pulled his hand back from the lamp. Not yet, but maybe soon. Cora ran, because that's what you do when you hear the adults saying placement and temporary and best for everyone's. You run before they can throw you away first. 4 days after the sheriff's visit, the social worker came. Silas had prepared for it, cleaned the house, made sure Cora's room looked lived in but not desperate, put fresh sheets on the bed, made it look like she belonged. But when the knock came, his stomach still dropped. Mrs. Linda Chen was maybe 50, carried a briefcase, wore the kind of smile that didn't reach her eyes. She worked for the state. She'd seen everything. Mr. Brandt, I'm here about the child. Cora was upstairs. Silas had told her to stay there while he talked to the social worker first. She'd nodded, but he could see the fear in her eyes. Come in, he said. They sat in the living room. Mr. Chen pulled out forms, a clipboard, started asking questions. How did you find her? What condition was she in? Have you contacted any relatives? Do you have experience with children? What's your intention here? Silas answered everything. Truthful, direct, didn't embellish. I'd like to see her room, Mrs. Chen said. He took her upstairs, showed her Cora's room. The bed made neat, clothes in the closet, the horse book on the nightstand. And this was your daughter's room? Mrs. Chen asked. Too casual. Yes. Who passed away 6 years ago? Yes. She wrote something down. Mr. Brandt, I need to be frank with you. The optics here are concerning. Single male? No custody experience? Sudden attachment to a vulnerable child who resembles your deceased daughter. She don't resemble Emily. That's not what I'm not trying to replace my daughter. His voice was flat. I'm trying to give this kid a home. That's admirable. But there's procedures. A temporary foster arrangement requires background checks, home studies, regular visits, and that's assuming we can't locate any family. She ain't got family. We have to try. Mrs. Chen closed her folder. I'll need to speak with her. Alone. Upstairs, Cora sat on her bed, hands folded, trying to be small. Mrs. Chen sat in the chair by the window. "Hi, Cora. I'm Mrs. Chen. I work for social services. Do you know what that means?" Cora nodded. "I'm here to make sure you're safe and taken care of. Can you tell me how you've been treated here?" "Good. Has Mr. Brandt hurt you in any way?" "No." "Are you afraid of him?" "No." "Do you want to stay here?" Cora looked at her hands. "Yes." Mrs. Chen made notes. "Sweetheart, I need you to understand. This is a temporary situation. We're going to try to find your family or find you a proper placement with people who are qualified. I want to stay here." "I know, but Mr. Brandt isn't your family, and there's rules about—" "He's nice to me." "I'm sure he is. But nice isn't enough." Mrs. Chen's voice was kind but firm. "You need stability, structure, a family that's prepared for a child." Cora said nothing. "I'll be back in a week. We'll talk more then." After Mrs. Chen left, Silas found Cora in the kitchen staring out the window. "You okay?" She shrugged. "What did she ask you?" "If you hurt me? If I was scared?" "What did you say?" "No." She turned to face him. "Am I leaving?" "Not if I can help it." "But she said temporary. She said they'd find me a proper placement." "They can try. Don't mean they'll succeed." But there was doubt in his voice. Cora heard it. January crept in with colder nights and shorter days. Mrs. Chen came back twice more. Each visit, more questions, more forms, more talk about long-term solutions and what's best for the child. Silas started seeing lawyers in town. Came back looking tired. Cora tried to be perfect. Made breakfast without being asked. Did her reading, checked the locks with him every night. Didn't touch the lamp, but she could feel it, the ticking clock. The way adults looked at each other when they thought she wasn't watching. She was temporary. She was always temporary. The fourth visit, Mrs. Chen brought someone else. Another social worker. They wanted to talk to Silas privately. Cora sat at the top of the stairs out of sight. "Mr. Brandt, we've completed the initial assessment." Mrs. Chen's voice drifted up. "Your background check came back clean, and Dr. Brennan's medical report shows the child has thrived in your care." Cora's heart lifted. "However," Mrs. Chen continued, "the courts will need to determine long-term placement. We're looking at several options. A licensed foster family in Billings has expressed interest. They have experience with trauma cases." "No." Silas's voice was hard. "Mr. Brandt, she stays here. We're talking about a formal adoption process. That could take months, years. Are you prepared for that?" Silence. "Are you prepared for home visits, interviews, evaluations, for the court to question your motives, your age, your lack of experience?" More silence. "I understand this is difficult," Mrs. Chen said, softer. "But we have to think about what's best for Cora. And sometimes what's best isn't what we want." "I understand," Silas said finally. Cora's blood went cold. "I understand. Not she's staying. I understand." He was agreeing. He was letting them take her. She didn't wait to hear more. She moved fast, grabbed her coat, the better one Silas had bought her, and her shoes, climbed out the bedroom window, onto the porch roof, the way she'd learned to escape other places, dropped into snow, ran. She didn't know where she was going, just away. Away, before they could pack her things and drive her somewhere new and tell her it was for the best. Away before Silas could look at her with pity and say he'd tried. Away before her heart could break any more. The January cold bit through her coat. Snow was coming. She could smell it. But she didn't stop. She'd rather freeze than go back to the system. At least Cold was honest. Silas was still arguing with Mrs. Chen when he heard it. A soft thump from upstairs. Too soft. He stopped mid-sentence. "Excuse me." Took the stairs 2 at a time. Cora's door was open. Room empty. Window open. Cold air streaming in. "No." His voice cracked. "No, no, no." He ran back downstairs, past the startled social workers, out into the yard. Her tracks in the snow. Small boot prints heading east toward the tree line. The temperature was dropping. The sky was gray. Another storm coming. "Cora!" His voice echoed across the empty land. Mrs. Chen appeared on the porch. "Mr. Brandt, what's—" She ran. He was already moving toward the barn. "She heard us. She thinks I'm sending her away. We should call the sheriff. No time." He grabbed the truck keys. No, truck was too slow in snow. He saddled his horse instead, fingers clumsy with panic. "Brandt, we need to coordinate." But he was already gone, riding hard into the gray afternoon, following small tracks that were already starting to fill with fresh snow. He found her 2 miles out. She'd made it to the old creek bed, the one that was frozen solid this time of year. She was sitting under a cottonwood tree, knees pulled up, shaking. Her lips were pale. She'd been out here maybe 30 minutes. Enough. Silas dismounted, approached slow. Cora. And she looked up. Her face was tear-streaked and furious. Get away from me. You need to come back. No. It's not safe out here. I don't care. Her voice broke. You're sending me away anyway. And I'm not. I heard you. You said you understood. You said, I said I understood the process. And he moved closer on. I didn't say I was giving up. You're lying. I don't lie. Everyone lies. She tried to stand, stumbled. He caught her arm. She jerked away. Let me go. You don't want me anyway. The hell I don't. The words came out raw, louder than he meant. Cora stared at him. The hell I don't, he said again, quieter. You damn fool, kid. You think I'd let you go without a fight? But you said, I said I understood they'd make it hard. I said I understood it'd take time. That don't mean I'm giving up. He crouched down to her level. You hear me? I'm not giving up. Her face crumpled. You promise? I promise. But what if they... Then I'll fight them. In court, in front of God and everyone. I'll do whatever it takes. Why? Her voice was so small. I'm nobody. I'm just some kid you found. You're not nobody. His voice cracked. You're... She collapsed. Legs gave out. He caught her before she hit the frozen ground. Hypothermia. Again. Jesus Christ. He wrapped her in his coat, held her against his chest. She was crying, shaking, trying to talk. Nobody wants me, she sobbed. Nobody ever wants me. And something in Silas broke. All the walls he'd built, all the careful distance, all the protection against feeling too much, gone. I do, kid. His voice was wrecked. Christ, I do. She clung to him. Promise? Promise. Even though I ran away? Especially because you ran away. He stood, holding her, started toward his horse. That's when I knew for sure. Knew what? That you were mine to keep. She buried her face in his shoulder. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Don't ever be sorry for being scared. He got her on the horse, climbed up behind her, held her close. Started back. Snow began falling. Heavy, fast. The storm was here, but this time he wasn't afraid. This time he had something to get home for. In the hospital room that smelled like disinfectant and second chances, Silas Brandt told a 9-year-old girl the truth he'd never said out loud. That he had a daughter once, and she died because he didn't know how to ask for help until it was too late. Doc Brennan met them at the emergency entrance. Silas carried Cora in, still wrapped in his coat. She was conscious but shaking, lips pale, not making sense when she tried to talk. Hypothermia, Silas said. Second time. Doc didn't waste time on questions, just pointed to a room. In there. They got her on a bed, under warming blankets. Doc took vitals, started an IV. Mrs. Chen arrived 20 minutes later, the other social worker with her. They stood in the hallway, watching through the window. Silas didn't leave Cora's side. Mr. Brandt, Doc said quietly, you should let me work. I'm staying. Doc looked at him, really looked, and saw something he hadn't seen in 6 years. Terror. Raw, undisguised terror. All right, Doc said, but sit down before you fall down. Silas sat, held Cora's hand. Her fingers were ice. It took an hour for her core temperature to come up. Another hour before she stopped shivering. Doc said she'd be fine. Needed observation overnight, but she'd be fine. Silas nodded, didn't let go of her hand. When Cora woke, it was dark outside. The hospital room glowed with that sterile fluorescent light that made everything look gray. Silas was still there, sitting in the chair beside her bed. He looked like he hadn't moved in hours. You stayed, she said. Her voice was rough. Yeah. How long? Long as it takes. She looked at the IV in her arm, the monitors beeping softly. Am I in trouble? No. Are you? He almost smiled. Maybe. They sat in silence. The machines beeped. Somewhere down the hall, someone laughed. Why'd you come after me? She asked. Because you're mine. But I ran away. Don't matter. I could have died. That's why I came after you. His voice was rough. Can't lose you too. She turned her head to look at him. Really look. His eyes were red-rimmed. His jaw was tight. His hands were shaking slightly. Two? She asked quietly. He closed his eyes. Yeah. Your wife. Yeah. And your daughter. He opened his eyes, nodded. Cora was quiet for a long moment. Then, what was her name? Emily. How old was she? 7. He stopped, started again. She was 7. What happened? Silas looked at his hands, big hands, rancher's hands, hands that had held his daughter while she died. Pneumonia, he said finally. She got sick. I didn't notice at first, thought it was just a cold. By the time I realized it was serious, the storm had already hit. Roads were closed. Doc couldn't get to us in time. That's not your fault? It was. His voice went flat. I was working. Always working. Too damn proud to ask the neighbors for help. Too stubborn to notice my own kid was sick until it was too late. Margaret, my wife, she'd been trying to tell me Emily wasn't right. I didn't listen. Said I'd check on her after I finished fixing the fence. He stopped, swallowed hard. By the time I came in, Emily couldn't breathe right. I tried to drive her to town, made it maybe 3 miles before the truck got stuck in a drift, had to carry her back. Doc finally got through the next morning, but his voice broke. She died in that room you're sleeping in while I was trying to dig out the truck. While I was trying to be the strong one who didn't need help from anybody. Cora's eyes filled. I'm sorry. She was 7 years old, same age as you were when... He stopped, shook his head. Doesn't matter. It does matter. Cora's voice was fierce. Because you saved me. You didn't let me die in the snow. That's different. How? Because I already failed once. I couldn't... He rubbed his face. I couldn't fail again. They sat in silence. The machines beeped. Finally, Cora spoke. Is that why you were so angry about the lamp? Yeah, because your wife used to light it. As every night I worked late, so I could find my way home. His voice was barely above a whisper. After she died, after Emily, I couldn't stand to see it lit. Felt like a lie, like I didn't deserve to come home. That's not true. Felt true. Cora shifted in the bed, turned to face him fully. When you found me in the snow, did you think I was her? The question hung there. For about 3 seconds, Silas admitted. Then I saw you weren't. Saw you were somebody else. Somebody who needed help. Is that why you kept me? Because I remind you of her? No. He said it fast, hard. You're not Emily. You don't look like her. You don't act like her. You're you. Then why? Because... He stopped, tried to find the words. Because when I found you in that snow, I felt something I thought was dead. Something I'd buried with them. And I'm tired, Cora. I'm so damn tired of being alone in that house. Of checking those locks knowing there's nobody to protect. Of sitting at that table set for one. Her eyes were wet. What if I leave? What if something happens to me and... Then I'll be sad. His voice cracked. But I'll know I tried this time. I'll know I didn't let fear win. You're scared of losing me. Terrified. Me too. Her voice was small. I'm scared you'll decide I'm too much trouble. That you'll realize you made a mistake. That's not going to happen. How do you know? Because I already know you're trouble. He met her eyes. And I still want you to stay. A tear rolled down her cheek. You really mean that? Yeah, kid. I really do. She started crying then. Not the silent tears from before. Real crying. The kind that came from years of being unwanted, of being temporary, of learning not to hope. Silas didn't know what to do. Didn't know if he should touch her or speak or... She reached for him. He took her hand, held it. Nobody wants me, she sobbed. Nobody ever wants me. And something in Silas shattered. All the careful walls, all the distance, all the years of protecting himself from feeling too much, gone. I do. His voice broke. God help me, I do. She was still crying. He was holding her hand like it was the only thing keeping him upright. I'm not her, Cora said through tears. I can't be her. I know. I can't fix what happened. I know that too. Then why keep me? Her voice broke. Why risk it? Silas looked at this 9-year-old girl who'd been thrown away by the world, who said sorry before asking for help, who ran into a blizzard rather than trust that someone might fight for her. Because when I pulled you out of that snow, he said slowly, I realized something. I've been dying for 6 years, not living, just existing, going through motions. And I'm tired of it, Cora. I'm tired of punishing myself, tired of that empty house, tired of checking locks to protect nobody. But what if you leave, I'll hurt. If something happens to you, I'll hurt worse. His voice was raw, but at least I'll have tried. At least I'll know I opened my heart one more time, instead of letting it turn to stone. She squeezed his hand. I don't want to hurt you. You won't, not on purpose. He squeezed back, and that's more than enough. They sat like that, two broken people holding onto each other in a hospital room that smelled like antiseptic and second chances. Do you think, Cora's voice was barely a whisper, do you think Emily would have liked me? Silas's throat closed. He blinked hard. When he spoke, his voice was thick. Yeah, I think she would have. Really? She would have loved having a big sister. Cora's eyes went wide. Big sister? He realized what he'd said, the implication, that Cora wasn't temporary, that in his head she was already. Yeah, he said, if you'll have the job. She started crying again, but this time she was smiling. I never had a little sister before. Me neither. She hiccuped. I never was a big sister. First time for everything. She laughed through her tears, then sobered. What if they won't let me stay? Then we fight. How? However I have to. A knock on the door. Doc Brennan poked his head in. You got visitors. Sheriff's here. And Mrs. Chen. Silas stood. Tell them I'll be right out. Silas, I need a minute. Doc nodded, closed the door. Silas looked down at Cora. You okay for a bit? Are you coming back? Yeah, I just need to talk to them. What if they want to take me? He crouched down beside the bed, looked her in the eye. Then they'll have to go through me first. In the hallway, Sheriff Merrick and Mrs. Chen were waiting. Doc Brennan stood with them, arms crossed. How is she? Mrs. Chen asked. She'll be fine, Silas said. Doc says she can go home tomorrow. Mr. Brandt, we need to discuss. I want to adopt her. He said it flat, direct, legal, official, whatever it takes. Mrs. Chen exchanged a look with the sheriff. Mr. Brandt, after what happened today. What happened today is she got scared and ran. Kids do that. She nearly died. Again. Because she thought I was giving up on her. Because she heard us talking and misunderstood. His voice was hard. That's my fault. I should have been clearer with her, but that don't change what I'm saying. I want to adopt her. It's complicated, Mrs. Chen said. The courts will want to know if you can provide a stable environment, if you're prepared for the emotional challenges of a traumatized child. I can't promise I'll be perfect, Silas interrupted. Can't promise I won't make mistakes. But I can promise she'll be fed and warm and safe. That she'll have a home that's hers, not temporary. That someone will check on her when she's sick and teach her to make eggs and give a damn whether she comes home at night. That's not enough. It's more than she's got now. Silence. Roy spoke up. He's got a point, Linda. Mrs. Chen sighed. Mr. Brandt, I'm not the enemy here. I'm trying to do what's best for Cora. So am I. Are you? She met his eyes. Or are you trying to fill a hole your daughter left? The words hit like a punch. Silas went very still. When he spoke, his voice was quiet, dangerous. My daughter's death left a hole that can't be filled. Ever. Emily's gone. I know that. Cora knows that. This isn't about replacing Emily. Then what is it about? It's about... He stopped, looked at Doc, at Roy, at this woman who held Cora's future in her hands. Then he told the truth. It's about the fact that I've been dead for 6 years, walking around, breathing, but dead inside. It's about the fact that I blamed myself for Emily's death so much that I stopped living, stopped lighting the lamp, stopped eating at the table, stopped everything except work and sleep and waiting to die. His voice cracked. And then I found Cora. And for the first time in 6 years, I felt something other than guilt. I felt needed. Like maybe I could still do some good in this world. Like maybe I wasn't just the man who let his daughter die. Mrs. Chen's expression softened. Mr. Brandt, I failed Emily, he continued. Not because I didn't love her, because I loved her wrong. Thought I had to be strong all the time. Had to handle everything myself. Thought asking for help made me weak. And she died while I was being too proud to admit I needed it. He looked at the hospital room door. I'm not making that mistake again. I'll go to court. I'll do home studies. I'll talk to therapists and lawyers and whoever else you put in front of me. I'll ask for help when I need it. I'll do whatever it takes. That could take months, Mrs. Chen said quietly. Maybe longer. Then it takes longer. The court might say no. Then I'll appeal. Well, Mr. Brandt, she's mine. His voice went hard. I don't care what the paper says. She's mine, and I'm hers. And I'm not letting her go back into a system that treats kids like they're disposable. Roy looked at Mrs. Chen. He means it. I can see that. Mrs. Chen studied Silas. All right. I'll recommend temporary foster placement pending adoption proceedings. But you need to understand, this is a long process, and it's not guaranteed. I understand. And you'll need to work with me. Home visits, therapy for Cora, parenting classes, whatever you need. She nodded slowly. Okay, I'll start the paperwork. After she left, Roy clapped Silas on the shoulder. Hell of a speech. Wasn't a speech. It was the truth. I know. Roy smiled. That's what made it good. Doc Brennan was quiet. Then, you really gonna do this? Yeah, even though you're terrified. Especially because I'm terrified. Silas looked at his old friend. I failed Emily because I was too scared to be vulnerable, too scared to admit I couldn't do it alone. I won't fail Cora the same way, Doc nodded. You're gonna need help. I know. Good, because I'm gonna hold you to that. They stood in the hospital hallway, three men who'd known each other for decades, who'd seen each other through like births and deaths and everything between. You think I can do this? Silas asked quietly. Doc smiled. I think you already are. Silas went back into the room. Cora was awake, watching the door. What did they say? He sat down beside her. They said I gotta take classes, do home visits, jump through hoops. And then? And then, maybe, if we're lucky and we do everything right, you get to stay. For how long? He looked at her. Forever, if you want. Her breath caught. You mean it? Yeah, kid. I mean it. She reached for his hand. He took it. I'm scared, she whispered. Me too. What if it doesn't work? Then we try again. He squeezed her hand. But I'm not giving up. You hear me? Not this time. She nodded. Okay. Okay. They sat in silence. Outside, the storm had passed. The night was clear and cold and full of stars. Inside, two people who'd been lost had found something worth fighting for, each other. While lawyers filed papers and social workers did home visits, Silas taught Cora to ride the fence line every morning. Not because the fences needed checking, but because some kinds of healing only happen in open country with nothing but sky and silence to witness it. February came in cold, but lighter. Days stretching longer. Snow still deep, but the sun had teeth now. Cora came home from the hospital after 2 days. Doc said she was fine. Said she was tougher than she looked. Mrs. Chen came by twice a week, asked questions, watched how they interacted. Took notes on everything. Silas started meeting with a lawyer in town. Frank Morrison, been practicing family law for 30 years, said the adoption would take time. 6 months, minimum, probably longer. Background checks, home studies, interviews, court appearances. You sure you want to do this? Frank asked during their second meeting. Yeah. It's going to cost you. Money, time, privacy. Don't care, Frank smiled. Then we got a shot. The days fell into rhythm. Morning, Silas made coffee, Cora made eggs. They ate at the table, just the two of them at one end. After breakfast, chores. He taught her to feed the cattle, mend fence, muck stalls. She was small but determined, learned fast. Afternoons, she did schoolwork. Mrs. Chen had enrolled her in correspondence courses until they figured out long-term. Silas worked the ranch, but stayed closer to the house now, didn't go far. Evenings, dinner, dishes, lock-checking together. Then she'd read while he pretended to read the newspaper. At night, before bed, she'd stand in the doorway of the living room. Good night, Silas. Good night, Cora. Neither of them said what they wanted to say. 3 weeks after the hospital, she asked the question. They were riding fence line. He'd gotten her up on the gentlest horse, teaching her to sit proper, and she'd been quiet for the last mile. Can I ask you something? Yeah. When they come. For the court thing, what do I call you? He glanced at her. What do you mean? I mean... She looked at her hands on the reins. Mrs. Chen said I have to testify. Say what I want, and I don't know what to call you. Mr. Brandt sounds wrong. Silas sounds... I don't know. Temporary. His chest tightened. What do you want to call me? She was quiet for a long time. Never mind. Cora. It's stupid. Ain't stupid if it matters to you. She bit her lip, looked at the mountains. I want to call you Dad, but I don't know if I'm allowed. The word hit him like a physical thing. Dad. Not Silas, not Mr. Brandt. Dad. He pulled his horse to a stop. She did too, watching him with scared eyes. I'm sorry, she said quickly. I shouldn't have. You can call me whatever you want, he said. His voice was rough. But if you want to call me that, I'd be honored. Her eyes went bright. Really? Really? Even though the papers aren't done yet? Papers don't make family. This does. He gestured between them. What we're doing right here, that's what makes family. She smiled. Small at first, then bigger. Okay. They rode on, but something had shifted. Something fundamental. That night, at dinner, she tested it. Can you pass the salt, Dad? He passed it, didn't trust his voice. She smiled into her plate. Before bed, good night, Dad. He had to clear his throat twice. Good night, Cora. After she went upstairs, he sat at the kitchen table for a long time. Margaret's photo was still face down in the drawer. Emily's room was now Cora's room. The lamp was still dark in the window, but the house wasn't empty anymore. And for the first time in 7 years, that felt right. A week later, Silas stood in the barn after evening chores. Just him and the horses and the smell of hay and leather. He was thinking about Emily, about the last time he'd held her. She'd been burning up with fever, struggling to breathe, and he'd carried her through the snow toward town. Truck stuck. Radio dead. Just him and her in the storm. She'd looked up at him with those big eyes. "Daddy, I'm cold." "I know, baby, I know." "Are we going home?" "Yeah, we're going home." But they didn't make it. He'd had to turn back, carry her home, call for Doc. Wait, too late. Always too late. He'd blamed himself for 6 years, for not noticing sooner, for being too proud to ask neighbors for help, for choosing work over her. But standing in the barn now, with Cora's laughter still echoing in his head from dinner, he realized something. The guilt wasn't about Emily dying. It was about what he'd done after. He'd shut down, locked the door, refused to live, turned the house into a tomb and himself into a ghost. That was the real failure. Not that Emily died, but that he'd stopped living when she did. Margaret wouldn't have wanted that. Emily wouldn't have wanted that. They'd want him to. The barn door opened. Cora poked her head in. "You okay?" He looked at her. 9 years old, messy hair, one of his old flannel shirts drowning her, face full of concern. "Yeah," he said. "Yeah, I'm okay." "You've been out here a while." "Just thinking." As she came in, closed the door against the cold. "About what?" He almost said nothing. Almost shut her out the way he'd shut everyone out for years. But he'd promised. Promised himself, promised Doc, promised her. No more walls. "About Emily," he said. "About how I let her death turn me into someone who didn't live. Just existed." Cora sat on a hay bale. "And now? Now I'm trying to remember how to live. Is it working?" He looked at her, really looked. This kid who'd been thrown away. This kid who called him dad now. "Yeah," he said. "I think it is." She smiled. "Good." They sat in the barn together. The horses shifted. Wind rattled the roof. "Can I tell you something?" Cora asked. "Yeah. I'm glad you found me, even though it's hard. Even though we have to do all this court stuff. I'm glad." His throat closed. "Me too, kid. Because I was dying out there too. Not from the cold, from not mattering to anyone, from being nobodies." "You're not nobodies anymore." "I know." She looked at him. "I'm yours." "Yeah, you are." They sat in comfortable silence. Two people who'd been lost, now found. After a while, Cora stood. "Come on, it's cold out here." "You go ahead. I'll be in soon." She hesitated. "Promise?" "Promise." She left. The door closed. Silas sat alone in the barn. But for the first time, being alone didn't feel like punishment. It felt like a moment to breathe, to accept that Emily was gone, that Margaret was gone, that he'd failed them in some ways but loved them in others, and to accept that loving Cora didn't mean forgetting them. It meant honoring them by living again. He stood, brushed hay off his jeans, headed for the house. Through the kitchen window, he could see Cora at the table, doing homework. The lamp sat dark beside her, but the house was full of light anyway. The courthouse in Lewistown smelled like old wood and nervous sweat, and when they asked Silas Brandt why a 60-year-old millionaire wanted to adopt a 9-year-old nobody, he looked the judge in the eye and said, "Because she's already mine." The hearing was set for the last Monday in February. Silas wore his only suit, the one he'd worn to Margaret's funeral to Emily's. It still fit, barely, smelled like mothballs. Cora wore a dress Mrs. Chen had brought, blue, with white buttons, too formal. She looked uncomfortable. "You okay?" Silas asked in the truck on the way. "Yeah." "You sure?" She picked at the hem. "What if they say no?" "Then we try again." What if they say I have to leave today?" He glanced at her. "They won't." "But what if—" "Cora." He reached over, squeezed her hand. "We got this." She held on tight. "Promise?" "Promise." But his own hands were shaking. The courthouse was old, built in the 20s, high ceilings, dark wood, American flag in the corner. Judge Patricia Hendricks presiding, 50-something, gray hair pulled back, reading glasses on a chain. She'd been on the bench for 20 years, seen everything. Mrs. Chen was there, Sheriff Merrick, Doc Brennan, Frank Morrison representing Silas, and a woman Silas had never seen before. 40, business suit, briefcase. She sat at the other table. "Who's that?" Silas whispered to Frank. "State's attorney. They sent someone to represent the county's interest." "Meaning?" "Meaning they're going to question whether you should have her." Silas's jaw tightened. Judge Hendricks called the hearing to order. "We're here regarding the petition for temporary foster placement and adoption intent filed by Silas Brandt for the minor child known as Cora, last name unknown, approximately 9 years of age. She looked over her glasses. Mr. Brandt, you're seeking to adopt this child? Silas stood. Yes, Your Honor. You understand this is highly irregular? You're not a licensed foster parent. You have no prior experience with children beyond your deceased daughter. The child appeared on your property under mysterious circumstances. I found her freezing to death. Your Honor, wasn't mysterious. Was life or death? Mr. Brandt, I'll ask the questions. But her tone wasn't unkind. Why do you want to adopt this child? He looked at Cora, sitting in the front row. She was watching him with huge eyes. Because she's already mine, he said. Judge Hendricks raised an eyebrow. Explain. The minute I found her in that snow, she was mine. The minute I heard her say sorry before asking for help, like she'd been taught she wasn't worth saving, I knew I couldn't let her go back to wherever she came from. Noble sentiment, but adoption requires more than sentiment. I know that, Your Honor. I got a home, got money, got land. I can provide for her. You're 61 years old. Yes, ma'am. Single. Yes, ma'am. Yet you lost your wife and daughter 6 years ago to illness. Yes, ma'am. Isn't it possible you're trying to fill that void? The courtroom went quiet. Silas took a breath. Your Honor, I won't lie to you. Losing my family near about killed me. I spent 6 years wishing it had. But Cora isn't a replacement. She's not Emily. She's Cora. And she's got her own history, her own wounds, her own way of being. Then why adopt her specifically? Because we're both broken. And somehow, being broken together is better than being broken alone. The state's attorney stood. Your Honor, if I may. You'll get your turn, Ms. Walsh. Ms. Walsh sat back down, lips pressed thin. Judge Hendricks looked at her notes. Mrs. Chen, what's your assessment? Mrs. Chen stood. Your Honor, I've completed 3 home visits. Mr. Brandt's property is more than adequate. The child has her own room, access to education, medical care through Dr. Brennan. Financially, Mr. Brandt is more than capable. And, she paused. And in my professional opinion, Cora is thriving in his care. She's gained weight, she's engaged, she's bonded to him in a healthy way. Thank you. Judge Hendricks made a note. Dr. Brennan? Doc stood. I've treated both Mr. Brandt and Cora. The child was severely malnourished and hypothermic when she arrived. Under Mr. Brandt's care, she's made a full recovery. More than that, she's happy. I've known Silas for 40 years. I watched him shut down after his family died, and I've watched him come back to life these past 3 months. Whatever they're doing, it's working. Judge Hendricks nodded. Sheriff Merrick? Roy stood. Your Honor, I'll be straight with you. When Doc first told me Silas had a kid out at his place, I thought he'd lost his mind. But I've seen them together. I've seen how he looks at her, how she looks at him. That's not a man trying to replace his daughter. That's a father. He's not legally her father. Not yet, ma'am, but he is in every way that matters. Judge Hendricks turned to the state's attorney. Ms. Walsh, your concerns? Ms. Walsh stood, adjusted her glasses. Your Honor, while Mr. Brandt's intentions may be good, we have significant concerns. First, the child's background is completely unknown. No birth certificate, no family history, no medical records. For all we know, she has relatives looking for her. We've run her through every database, Mrs. Chen said. No missing persons reports match her description. That doesn't mean there's no one, Ms. Walsh pulled out a file. Second, Mr. Brandt has no training in child psychology, trauma response, or foster care protocols. This child has clearly experienced significant trauma. She needs specialized care. She needs a home, Silas said. Mr. Brandt, you'll have your turn, Judge Hendricks said. Ms. Walsh continued. Third, and most importantly, Mr. Brandt's own psychological state is questionable. He suffered significant losses. He lives in isolation. He's never sought therapy or counseling. How do we know he's mentally stable enough to care for a traumatized child? Silas's hands clenched. Frank Morrison stood. Your Honor, my client has been evaluated by Dr. Brennan and found to be in sound mental health. He's employed, financially stable, and has strong community ties. Community ties? Ms. Walsh raised an eyebrow. He lives alone on a ranch 12 miles from town. He has no family, no support system. What happens if he gets sick? If he dies? This child would be orphaned again. I'm 61, not 90, Silas said. And I got friends, got Doc, got Mr. Brandt. Judge Hendricks' voice was firm. He sat down. Judge Hendricks looked at Cora. Young lady, I'd like to talk to you. Is that all right? Cora nodded, stood on shaky legs. Come up here, please. Cora walked to the witness stand. The bailiff helped her into the chair. Her feet didn't touch the ground. Judge Hendricks' expression softened. Cora, I know this is scary, but I need to ask you some questions, and I need you to tell me the truth, okay? Okay. How do you feel about living with Mr. Brandt? I like it. What do you like about it? Cora's voice was small. He's nice to me. He makes me breakfast. He teaches me stuff. What kind of stuff? How to ride horses, how to fix fences, how to check locks. Check locks? Every night, twice, to make sure they're safe. Judge Hendricks wrote something down. Do you feel safe with him? Yes. Has he ever hurt you? No. Has he ever made you uncomfortable? No. Cora, I need you to think carefully about this next question. Do you want to stay with Mr. Brandt? Yes. Why? Cora looked at Silas. He nodded at her. Tell the truth. She turned back to the judge. Because he came looking for me. What do you mean? When I ran away. I thought he was sending me away, so I ran. And he came looking. Nobody ever came looking before. Her voice cracked. He found me in the snow, and he said he wasn't giving up on me. And I believe him. What do you call him? The courtroom held its breath. Dad? Cora whispered. Judge Hendricks leaned forward. And what does he call you? Cora, she paused. Sometimes kid, or, she smiled a little, or damn fool when I do something dangerous. As a few people in the courtroom laughed softly. One more question, Judge Hendricks said. If I said you had to leave today, go to a different home with trained foster parents, what would you say? Cora's eyes filled with tears. I'd say please don't make me. I'd say I'm happy there. I'd say, she looked at Silas again. I'd say I'm already home. Judge Hendricks was quiet for a long moment. Then she looked at Silas. Mr. Brandt, stand up. He stood. You understand that if I grant this petition, you're taking on a legal and moral responsibility for this child's welfare, that she'll be your dependent in every way. Yes, Your Honor. That you'll be subject to ongoing monitoring, home visits, and court oversight until the adoption is finalized? Yes, Your Honor. That if you fail to provide adequate care, she'll be removed and you'll face legal consequences? I understand. Judge Hendricks looked at him hard. Why should I believe you'll follow through? You're a man who's lived alone for 6 years, who's used to doing everything himself, who, by his own admission, let pride and isolation contribute to his daughter's death. Why should I trust you with another child? The courtroom went dead silent. Silas met her eyes. Because I already failed once, Your Honor, and I won't fail again. Not her, not this time. That's not an answer. It's the only one I got. His voice was raw. I can't promise I'll be perfect. Can't promise I won't make mistakes. But I can promise I'll love her. I can promise I'll ask for help when I need it. I can promise I'll fight for her every single day for as long as I'm breathing. He paused. And I can promise that when she's scared or hurt or doubting herself, I'll be there. Because that's what fathers do, and that's what I am now, her father. Not on paper yet, but in every way that counts. Judge Hendricks looked at Cora, then at Silas, then at the papers in front of her. Ms. Walsh, anything else? The state's attorney stood, looked at Cora, at Silas, then sat back down. No, Your Honor. Judge Hendricks nodded. Then here's my ruling. The courtroom held its breath. I'm granting temporary foster placement to Mr. Brandt effective immediately. Cora will remain in his care. Adoption proceedings will begin with a 6-month review period. During this time, Mrs. Chen will continue weekly home visits. Mr. Brandt will attend parenting classes and therapy sessions as recommended. And she looked at Silas over her glasses. And you'll ask for help when you need it. That's not a suggestion, it's an order. Yes, Your Honor. This court believes family is defined by love and commitment, not just blood. And it's clear to me that you two have found that in each other. She struck her gavel. This hearing is adjourned. Outside the courthouse, in the February sun, Silas and Cora stood on the steps. She looked up at him. We won? Yeah, kid, we won. For real? For real. She threw her arms around him. He caught her, held her tight. Can I really call you Dad now? His voice was thick. I'd be honored. She pulled back, smiling through tears. Dad? Yeah? Can we go home? He smiled. First real smile in 7 years. Yeah, let's go home. They walked to the truck together, father and daughter, legal on paper now, but real long before that. And when Silas looked back at the courthouse, he saw Doc standing on the steps smiling. Roy tipped his hat. Even Mrs. Chen was wiping her eyes. They drove home in comfortable silence. The Montana sky stretched endless and blue. Spring was coming early this year. Dad? Cora asked as they turned onto the ranch road. Yeah? Thank you. For what? For finding me. For keeping me. For... Her voice broke. For wanting me. He reached over, squeezed her hand. Thank you for letting me. They pulled up to the house. The sun was setting, painting everything gold, and in the kitchen window, the brass lamp sat dark, but not for long. Spring came early to Montana that year, and on the night Silas Brandt lit the lamp in the kitchen window for the first time in 7 years, it wasn't for himself. It was so his daughter could find her way home. 2 months after the courthouse. April brought green to the high plains. Snow melted into rivers. Calves were born. The land woke up. Cora was enrolled in school now. Real school in town. She took the bus in the morning, came home at 4. Silas worked the ranch, but kept an eye on the clock. 3:30, he'd start watching the road. 3:50, he'd hear the engine. 4 o'clock, she'd come running up the drive. Every day, like clockwork. This afternoon, he stood at the kitchen window waiting. The brass lamp sat where it always had. Dark for 7 years, he looked at it for a long time. Then he found the matches. The yellow bus appeared on the horizon. Silas lit the lamp's wick. The flame caught, steadied. Warm light filled the window. He set it down carefully, stepped back. The lamp burned. Cora got off the bus, backpack bouncing, started up the drive, then stopped, stared at the window, at the light. She stood there for a full 10 seconds. Then she ran, burst through the door. You lit it? He was standing in the kitchen. Yeah. Why? So you can find your way home, from anywhere. Her eyes filled. Dad, I am home. He crossed the room, pulled her into a hug. I know. They stood there in the kitchen, lamp burning behind them, spring sun slanting through the windows. I'm never leaving, she whispered into his shirt. Good, because I'm not letting you go. That night, after dinner and dishes, and checking the locks twice, Silas tucked her into bed. Can I tell you something? She asked. Yeah. I used to think nobody wanted me, that I was just something people got stuck with. And now, she smiled. Now I know at least one person does. He sat on the edge of the bed. I do, kid. From the first breath you took under my roof, you were mine to keep, even when I ran away. Especially then. That's when I knew for sure. No, why? Because I was more scared of losing you than I was of getting hurt. And that's how you know it's real. She reached for his hand. He took it. Love you, Dad? It was the first time she'd said it like that. Direct, no hiding. His throat closed. Love you too, Cora. She smiled, eyes already closing. Good night. Good night. He stood, turned off the light, paused in the doorway. 7 years ago, he'd stood in the same doorway and watched Emily sleep. Then he'd lost her, lost everything, turned the house into a tomb, and himself into a ghost. But not anymore. Now there was light in the window again, laughter at the dinner table, someone to check the locks with, someone to come home to. Not a replacement for what he'd lost, just a reason to keep living. He went downstairs, poured coffee he wouldn't drink, sat at the table. The lamp burned steady in the window, yellow and warm, the way Margaret used to keep it. Outside, the Montana stars came out. Inside, his daughter slept safe. And Silas Brandt, 61 years old, broken and mended, guilty and forgiven, smiled, a real smile, the first of many,